Yeah, come and take a look at the snow. Bright white as far as your eyesight goes. Come and take a look at the fields of snow. I'll just get my coat, then we're good to go. Come and take a look at the lake. Let's have a quick skate before it gets late. Come and take a look at the frozen lake. Put your clothes on, mate, don't make that mistake. Happy Christmas.
Good evening, holiday shoppers. It's 319 days until Christmas. That means it's time for another episode of Christmas Creeps, a holiday podcast about holiday movies. Hi, my name is Joe. I'll be your host this evening. I don't know why I'm using my NPR voice right now.
I was about to ask if we were on NPR.
Yes, we are, Karen. And let me tell you all of the fun reasons. This week's episode, Reindeer Games, is a holiday classic to be cherished forever.
If we're on NPR, does that mean that we can run a drive, a fundraiser?
Yes, it does. And for the simple payment of $9.95, I will send you a cheap, broken-ass, used copy of Reindeer Games because, oh my god, what the fuck is this movie? John, you're on the podcast too, John. I have a question for you.
I'm sorry, your voice was putting me to sleep.
John, is Reindeer Games a Christmas movie? Because I think we just watched Reindeer Games.
Yeah, I watched it. I remember that. I was there.
I hope you remember it. I was there too.
The point of this podcast is to suss out the true meaning of Christmas through Christmas movies, and I don't think the true meaning of Christmas is in Reindeer Games.
It had Santas, and I'm going off of Christmas with the Cranks, and the only thing it had to do with Christmas was there being Santa. He was in a Volkswagen, and this movie had Santa. There was no Volkswagen. He drove a semi, but
they had Frosty. They had a lot of Frosties in Christmas with the Cranks.
So does Wendy's. Doesn't make Wendy's a Christmas movie.
Yes. Tonight's episode is about the perennial all-time favorite Christmas classic, the 2000 film Reindeer Games.
Starring Batman.
Starring soon-to-be Batman and one-time Lieutenant Dan.
Lieutenant Dan after...
Not Ben Affleck, but Gary Sinise. Jeez, guys, what the hell did we just watch?
We watched a John Frankenheimer movie, if you can believe that.
I kinda don't. I mean, I at least know enough about movies to know who John Frankenheimer is. I mean, he...
Ronin, Manchurian Candidate, Birdman of Alcatraz.
Yeah, like Seconds and Grand Prix. Like, he's done some, like, good, serious, like, real, actual movies. And this is the last movie he made before he died.
This movie is poisonous.
That's depressing.
This movie is poison.
It was written by Aaron Kruger.
That should tell you everything you need to know, because in 2000 you were allowed not to know who Aaron Kruger was. But if watching it in 2015, like, you see his name on a movie and you just cringe for death, because Aaron Kruger is responsible for 3 out of the 4 Transformers movies.
And none of those 3 are the first one. So.
No. You can't even say he didn't write the good one, because there are no good ones.
I know, but he wrote the ones that were
the bad ones are his fault.
Even more unnecessary than the rest.
Yes. And the 10 Death March of Aaron Kruger cinema starts here with Reindeer Games, doesn't it? So when we booted the movie up for the first time, I looked at the plot description of the movie, and it didn't make a goddamn bit of sense to me.
Yeah, I just want to say, when we loaded this up, if you happen to watch this on Netflix, I don't know about your Netflix, but for us, I will admit to having seen this movie before. I was going into this a bit preloaded with information, but I recognized the picture that Netflix showed as the preview of being from the last, like, minute and a half of the movie.
And what was the picture? What was the picture of?
It was Ben Affleck in a dirty ass Santa suit holding a stack of money.
Okay, yeah, that was it. But you would be excused from ever wanting to watch Reindeer Games if you just read the Netflix summary, because the Netflix summary says, ex-con Rudy Duncan poses as his late cellmate to score with his alluring pen pal, whose psychotic boyfriend has other plans for the unsuspecting Rudy. Like, what the hell does that even mean?
Yeah, this is a heist movie, just to throw it out there, and that description manages to not say anything about that. Other plans means rob a casino. You should point that out, because that sounds interesting enough to make someone watch.
Ben Affleck impersonates his cellmate so that he can get with his cellmate's girlfriend, and also they rob a casino. Like,
Right. His cellmate's girlfriend has never seen his cellmate before because they're fucking prison pen pals.
Yeah, so, Ben Affleck's character, Rudy, is in prison.
Which, great name for your Christmas movie.
Rudy and Nick, I wonder what they mean by that.
Also, we should point out that, like, we are not bullshitting here. There is a lot of Christmas theming going on in this movie, so we're not just picking some random-ass movie off the street.
We kind of did, but it just happens this random-ass movie has a shitload to do with Christmas, so...
Right, so as far as we're concerned, it counts.
This movie starts with a flashback because it's one of those movies. It starts with a scene that makes no sense, then goes 6 days earlier.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that because when it first started, I was like, "What the fuck?" Because it just
it's
shows
just a bunch of dead Santas.
Yeah, it shows a shot of a bunch of dead ass Santa Clauses, and I was like, "What the fuck are we getting into?"
And then it cuts to the prison scene where Ben Affleck, his voice shows up in narration, and he says, "I never was much for the holidays." Like, thanks a lot, Ben.
I didn't ask for this.
Okay, so Rudy is in jail for 5 years because he was a professional car thief. He worked for a chop shop stealing cars for them.
He might as well have been a character in, like, Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yes.
If we just replaced him with Nicolas Cage's character in Gone in 60 Seconds, this whole movie
would be Con Air.
Yeah. And
I have no frame of reference for any of this.
It would almost be good, maybe.
Yeah, and then he has a cellmate, Nick. I can't be bothered to remember her last name because neither could the movie.
That's a fun way of spelling Cassidy.
Yeah.
I was gonna guess Sullivan. I didn't really want to guess.
I was gonna say Callahan. I couldn't remember. I was closer.
So Nick Sundance Kid, we find out he is in jail for 2 years for killing a dude in a bar fight, defending his girl's honor.
His ex-girl's honor.
Yeah. He mentions her name once. This will come in important later. Millie Bobek. And Nick also says that he also mentions that he used to be a security guard. So this is what we know going in there, that Nick just turns into Captain Exposition for a little bit and explains all of his backstory.
Yeah.
Which maybe it'll come into play later. Who knows?
I was gonna say, pretty much every part where Nick is in that movie, he's Captain Exposition.
And he gets more exposition because we see that in his cell, he's been writing letters to this woman.
Through some, like, prisoner pen pal magazine type thing, which I know what I know that, yeah, it's like...
From your time in the joint?
No, I've seen those before. Like, gas stations actually have those, like...
Like, the only other movie I've ever seen this used in is in the movie Problem Child.
That is a departure.
Where Junior writes letters to Michael Richards, and then Michael Richards breaks out of jail and immediately kidnaps the child.
I've never seen Problem Child either.
No, these like prisoner personal ad magazines exist. You can find them at sleazier gas stations.
Right. But the point is, it's a thing that you've probably heard of, but the screenwriter has too, so that's why he's using it in his movie.
Yeah, so Nick has this girl that he's been writing to for months. Ashley...
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, yes. Ashley doesn't matter. It is Charlize Theron, actually. We see here a bunch of pictures of her. He starts talking her up, and he apparently is reading all of the letters to Rudy, and at one point, there's a really creepy scene, because you see Rudy just sitting there staring at Nick, and you're like, what the hell is going on while Nick is sleeping? But then you realize Rudy's actually staring at the pictures that are on the wall, because Nick has decorated his section of the cell like a teen girl's bedroom. Just
pictures
a wall
plastered
of pictures
everywhere. Although this would be a vastly different movie if it were Rudy staring at Nick. I'd be more into that.
So, and then also, just to throw it out there, because it appears a few times, Ben Affleck totally had like a barbed wire tattoo and is the dumbest fucking thing.
I think he also had like some like cards or something like tattooed on him.
He had a cross on each shoulder, and one of the cross had cards all over it. It looked kind of like a Saints Row character. Just like, I'm gonna get this tattoo, and this one.
It's like halfway between Gambit from X-Men and a character from the Boondock Saints.
Also, he is a enormous wimp. He just like sounds like
enormous lots of things.
Yes.
Wimp is definitely one of them.
He is like the wimpiest looking prisoner I've ever seen.
So turns out that there's some prisoner called Alamo who apparently has it out for Rudy because he thinks Rudy snitched on him. So they go to lunch, and Isaac Hayes is there at lunch. Hi, Isaac Hayes.
Yep. And Ron Jeremy.
For one scene, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if Ron...
I didn't see Ron Jeremy.
Oh, you see him from behind.
Okay, so here's the thing. I knew from looking at the credits on IMDb, Ron Jeremy was in this movie under a fake name, Ron Hyas or something like that.
Okay.
If you see in the credits the name, like one of like prisoner number 1,
Yeah.
it says Ron and it starts with H.
Sorry.
And when
That's Ron
the
Jeremy.
whole like scene starts, you see him from behind. You can tell because of his like bald halo and then curly hair all around it.
Sorry, I don't know Ron Jeremy's real name or what the back of his head looks like.
That's on you, Karen.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
I know that Ron Jeremy is a greasy looking little sausage dude with a bald spot on the top of his
Yeah, I
head.
mean,
That's all I know.
once you know you're looking for Ron Jeremy, you're totally like, that's Ron Jeremy.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. He's a short guy with like curly hair.
All right.
So they spend the first 10 minutes of the movie going like, in 2 days we're gonna get out, man. Which I've seen movies before. One of these guys is gonna get fucking killed.
What are you gonna do when you get out? I'm gonna go meet this girl that I've been writing. What are you gonna do when you get out?
Pecan pie.
Pecan pie and hot chocolate.
Yeah, that's all he wanted was
And
hot
Affleck
chocolate.
says it just like that, too.
Yeah,
He says it like a fucking troll.
I think hot chocolate was the name of his favorite prostitute.
Isaac Hayes starts going on about monsters in the gelatin. They start a food fight. What else are you gonna do?
Food fights in prison.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then Alamo takes the opportunity to run at Rudy with a knife. Nick throws his dumbass in the way and gets stabbed for his trouble.
The most obviously contrived, I'm taking one for my buddy.
Oh
scene.
yeah, and he dies like so fast. It's
Yeah, it's
ridiculous.
one of those like movie deaths where it's just like, I'm dying.
yeah, like his
Yeah.
head just fucking falls over like after a
And
second
then
of
Affleck's
talking.
just like screaming for guards or medics and nobody's even giving a shit. No one's
Right.
listening.
Nobody cares.
So then, yeah, so then he goes ahead and he has a single manly tear that night. 1 tear. That's all he's allowed.
hmm
Then he gets out the next day and gets on the bus and he looks outside and who does he see out there waiting among all the other people?
Oh, it's Ashley.
It's Ashley. And the bus starts leaving and everyone's gone except who's still there?
Ashley.
And he starts thinking and the bus stops and he gets off and what does he say to Ashley? Are you Ashley? I'm Nick.
Yes.
Well, before he gets off the bus, he starts like talking to himself,
He's like, don't do it.
yeah,
he
like
knows what
out
he's gonna
loud,
do. Don't
out
do it.
loud in the fucking prison bus. Like,
Just
who
like,
the hell
"Come on,
does
Trinity,
that?
Get going.
Don't do it, Ben Affleck. Don't take another check for this bullshit movie.
Yes.
So then they go and have what might be one of the most awkward coffee dates imaginable. So
anyway, they go to a motor lodge somewhere.
yeah, they go to a diner first.
And
they go to a diner first and have like the most like these two people are gonna bone the fuck out of each other
Yeah.
conversation imaginable.
Yeah.
and
Without,
it
like,
just
knowing
cuts
each
to,
other.
Like, oh, they boned down. So
Yeah.
hard. And then she takes him shopping, and she dresses him like Walter White
Yeah, she kind of does. You're right.
in like the shitty beige like sport,
Like-
not sport jacket.
No,
but,
it was like a fleece like jacket.
While they're having their pillow talk, there's one thing Ben Affleck does. He does a couple times in this movie. So he is Rudy pretending to be Nick.
yes.
And more than a couple times, while he's pretending to be Nick, he's like, oh, I had this really great cellmate, Rudy. You would have loved him.
He's talking himself up.
Yeah.
Because Rudy
like,
is
why?
actually kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You're
Little
supposed
bit.
to like him because he's plucky and he's
Because
kind
he's
of
the main character.
he's the main character and he's kind of cool, but no, he's really a piece of shit.
No, and he's just kind of a baby. Like,
and he goes and he flushes his only piece of identifying him as Rudy down the toilet.
Which that wouldn't work because his ID is way too big for the toilet bowl.
right. I actually wrote down, I was taking notes. I said, who flushes an ID card? Like, when he did it.
I chalk up a lot of this movie to just being an old guy not knowing how things work anymore. And I hate to say that about John Frankenheimer, but that's probably what it is, because he probably didn't give a shit at this point. He just like, yeah, just throw it in the toilet, have it flush, and we'll move on.
Yeah, because then there's another line that makes no sense. When they come back from buying clothes, Charlize Theron tells Rudy she wants him wearing nothing but a candy cane.
Again, how do you do that? You gonna stick it up your ass?
Yes?
And then what?
So, then what happens? So he comes in, and then, hey, it's Danny Trejo. What are you doing here, Danny Trejo?
I just needed the work.
And some other thugs.
Yeah, a couple other...
Hey, another thugs. It's Donald Logue and some black guy.
Oh.
I did some research, but not enough. I'm sorry.
I didn't
feel
do
bad.
any research.
I mean,
I read some of the credits, but not all of them.
I mean, some
okay?
of you may have heard our voices before, and you should know we don't do research.
No, that's the charm.
So yeah, then so a bunch of thugs accost him, and then Lieutenant Dan walks in.
Lieutenant Dan walks in.
He has his legs
He
back.
has his legs back, and he looks just like he did in the 70s.
And he's done a shit ton of meth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like he did in the 70s.
Meth mouth. his character's name is Gabriel, which, once again, great character name for your Christmas movie.
Yeah.
And I do want to point out, now that I'm thinking about it, Gabriel was a bit name dropped before, because one of the ways Nick was just telling his life story to Rudy was mentioning Ashley's brother runs a trucking company. And this is Ashley's brother, Gabriel. He is, in fact, a trucker.
Right.
Yes.
He drives a truck that has Motor City Monster blazoned on the front of it.
Yeah, or on the side.
I'm gonna hope he's an owner-operator, because I don't trust any company called Motor City Monsters.
I guess, yeah. And I guess Motor City Madman was taken.
Motor City Meth Mouth.
There you go. Yeah.
I think I heard him on the radio.
As Gabriel and his thugs are like just tearing the room apart and beating the shit out of poor Ben Affleck, one of the goons pulls out a big bag of cookies and just screams, "They got a shitload of cookies!"
I really don't do a shitload of cookies. So they start going on, and you start getting they pull out guns and everything, and eventually he gets through that they need Rudy's help to rob the casino that Rudy used to be a guard at.
Here's where the actual plot kicks into gear.
Because they think he's Nick.
They think he's Nick, and she still thinks
Yes,
he's Nick.
I mean, we're
Right.
mixing the names up. Yeah. So he's like, hey Nick, you're gonna help us rob the casino, and Ben Affleck's immediate reaction is, I'm not Nick, I'm Rudy.
Because that's the way to not get yourself killed in this situation.
So then they point a gun at him, and then he's like,
But they put the gun on his head, and Ashley's just giving him this look like, oh shit, he's gonna die. And so he realizes, okay, fine, I'll just tell them I'm Nick for now. And you think, okay, that's been dealt with.
and then what does
Right.
what does Gary Sinise say? I don't want to play any Reindeer Games. Oh, he said the title.
That's later. You're thinking of later
No,
again.
I have it written down in my notes right there. It comes with a shitload of cookies, title drop.
Okay.
So then they kidnap him and her,
They're driving around with
they're
in
driving
the back of
around.
the truck.
and he starts dropping hints to her, or not dropping hints, he flat out tells her he's not Nick.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not Nick. He's being very vague to begin with about the whole Nick's dead thing. He's like,
He doesn't ever say Nick is dead.
yeah, he's just
Right.
Not he does later. Not at this point. He's just like, I got out, Nick didn't. I was a cellmate. I got out, he didn't, and that's all he really tells her. And
Which is a weird way to skirt
yeah,
that.
it's very awkwardly not giving the full truth for no real reason.
You would think if everybody in the movie were as dumb as we find out that they are, when he tells her that he's not Nick, Nick didn't, he got out, Nick didn't, would she not think, oh, well, we'll just go back to prison and get Nick?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm actually surprised they didn't do that.
Yeah, I guess they're like, well, we're in this far now. I might as well just go on with the plan.
Yep.
So Affleck keeps going on like, I'm not the guy. They want him to they show him a map of the casino, or is that later?
That's later, but they press him a second time
For information about the casino.
and they put a gun to his head again to make him confess whether or not he's Nick. And again, he tells them that he's not Nick, and they come within a hair's breadth of pulling the trigger to killing him, and he says, okay, fine, I'm gonna pretend to be Nick some more.
Yeah, but then the guy that was in the back of the truck with him was like, wait, he's saying yes now, he was saying no later when there wasn't a gun pointing to his head, so they have a little pop quiz.
Yeah. And so Lieutenant Dan asks him all these questions about his sister, and whether or not this guy's actually Nick. And because Nick has been reading all of these love letters to him in prison, he just knows all the answers. That's the only thing that saves his life, really, is he already actually knows everything about her.
And she is like mouthing answers behind Lieutenant Dan's head too,
Right.
when applicable.
It's really a bullshit scene, because we should have done this, didn't we do this 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And aren't we gonna do this 10 minutes from now?
Yeah, it's kind of a recurring theme of the movie. Like,
The one thing that stuck out to me was, all we had heard about Gabriel before was that he owned a trucking company and was Ashley's brother. But now Gabriel is like, what's Ashley's biggest fear? And Rudy is just like, her brother. And he's like, no, it's drowning. He's like, no, it's her brother. And Gary Sinise just like smiles at him like he passed.
Well, the real answer is her biggest fear is her brother drowning her.
basically.
She never says that.
Which, I mean, there is almost an instance of that later on.
Mm-hmm.
So Ben Affleck agrees to help them, but only if he gets some pecan fucking pie.
So they take it. So smash cut to shitty diner pecan pie.
They're all sitting around him like still with
Just
guns on the table
watching
pretty
him
much.
Right.
like hawks, and they keep trying to interrupt him, and he's like, "Nope, stop! He's not done yet. He's gonna enjoy his pecan pie first."
Right, because the guy without the gun gets to call all the shots here.
Of course. But then they move on to the next scene, whatever that is.
He starts explaining the plan to them. They start going over the plan. They're like, we want to rob the casino on Christmas Eve because the casino is really, really lightly staffed on Christmas Eve because nobody goes to the casino then.
Right. So then that's when they show him the map. And again, he has to pull this ruse of well, am I Nick or am I not Nick?
Right.
And he says, okay, fine. and he gives him this bullshit stick about how
What's this? What's this?
Yeah, he's Jack Skellington, and he's surprised at what he finds here.
So he's like, oh no, the buffet is over here, and the slot machines are over here, and the cash cage was over here. Oh, they must have remodeled.
Which is kind of a brilliant cover.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna get to it eventually, but this is bullshit. It's obviously bullshit. He's lying his ass off. We know he's lying his ass off.
And you kind of start getting the idea here that Gabriel and his pals they're gun runners, but they've not yet. This is their first step up into the next league.
Right.
Yeah, this is their first attempt at an actual robbery. They're not that bright. And then the next scene kind of shows us how not bright they are, because Danny Trejo drops the best truth bomb I've ever heard about Christmas.
Yes.
He's reading an issue of Business Week, and he's talking about how the U.S. government, he said, it seems to me an intellectual country would legislate a second such gift-giving holiday. Create, say, a Christmas 2. Late May, early June to further stimulate growth. And Gary Sinise gives him some shit about going to night school.
Yeah, he starts talking about how businesses do all their sales before Christmas, so why not have more Christmases?
Yeah. What a canny comment.
Yeah.
Like
but also it's just, honestly the movie probably didn't even think that much about it.
I agree with Danny Trejo.
They were probably just like
more movies to watch.
Yeah, but we have that. No. It's called Memorial Day.
But
that's when people buy furniture.
When they put this in the movie, though, they probably weren't even thinking that far. Like, I imagine they were just like, yeah, let's make this fucking meat-headed gangster guy super smart.
Yeah, so, Ben Affleck tells them, also, one thing he mentions to them, he mentions there's a powwow safe, which is where he says the owner of the casino is skimming, this is a reservation casino run by a guy who's not from the reservation. They hired him to run the casino.
It's Dennis Farina, who's apparently like a Las Vegas casino operator who's coming out here
to the Upper Peninsula, Michigan.
Right.
This must be UP because that's where Sidnaw is.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I don't know how they managed to get from. I don't know if anyone involved, Aaron Kruger or John Frankenheimer, looked at a map and noticed that the UP is not connected to mainland with the rest of Michigan. I don't know how they drove a truck from Detroit to Sidnaw without having a couple of Wisconsins involved.
A couple of Wisconsins.
But yeah, this is
you pop in, you pop out.
Yeah, this is a reservation casino out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere, Michigan. And yeah, Dennis Farina is Jack Bangs, and Ben Affleck's story is that he is skimming money from the tribe. Millions, and he keeps it in the casino in a safe that he calls the powwow safe.
Which in itself is just special.
Which, until you actually meet him, you think that's the most racist comment ever.
Pretty much, yeah.
And then even after you meet him, it's like, that's a really stupid thing to name a safe.
A little bit.
I mean, it is in an Indian casino, but Dennis Farina is the least Indian person on the planet. Right. Although the name of the safe will also come back into play later on.
Yeah, so they decide, they'll just send Affleck in to do recon and tell them what's changed and how it's changed and everything. He's like, you gotta get me to disguise, and they dress him up as Glenn Campbell, kind of.
Or a mariachi band.
They dress him up as like the big Texan high roller, casino guy. The guy you see in like every casino movie who's like
Tom Arnold and Austin Powers.
Jet Nicholson in Mars Attacks.
The rich Texan in The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's that guy. Everybody knows that guy. So they dress him up as that guy. And he goes into the casino to scope things out. And who does he meet but Ashton Kutcher?
Poor Ashton Kutcher.
First he actually runs into Jack Bangs, and Jack Bangs is having a conversation with the tribe representatives, trying to, you want Vegas, you have to do it, like, says something really racist. He's like, you want Vegas, you gotta do your little rain dance and get rid of all the snow.
Yeah. And then comes out all, like, pissy because they're not having any business.
He runs into, the owner, Jack Bangs, which a couple of the truckers follow him in. That sets off their alarms, kind of like, well, why was the owner talking to you? Did he recognize you?
And they assume that he's been made because they still think he's Nick. And Nick used to work at the casino.
It's like, no, dude just wanted to know where I heard about this place.
Dude's just like, hey, I like your style. Who are you?
He's like, where'd you hear about us? From TV ads? And he's like, I heard about you in prison.
Yeah.
From TV ads, a personal friend, on the internet. Check, all that apply.
Other prison.
Yes.
So Affleck's looking around. He happens to see a guy who looks almost exactly like he does in his disguise. And it's Ashton Kutcher.
It is the Kutch.
Full on facial hair.
One of his very first movie roles. I guess during or after that 70s show?
This is during.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he pulls Ashton Kutcher into the bathroom for some sexy time. I mean, to change disguises with him.
That's really, that's what they call it these days?
Yeah.
Changing disguises?
Yeah, it's just like $100 $100 to switch jackets with me. And Ashton Kutcher, because he's a dumb college kid,
Dumb shit.
is just like, yeah, sure, I like money.
And immediately gets tackled by Gary Sinise's thugs. And probably beat the fuck up anyway.
Well, they actually don't. They just like, they don't have the time. They would have murdered him if they had the time, I'm guessing.
Oh, I'm sure they did, but he didn't get up without being kicked a couple times.
Yeah, they chase him to his car and tackle him, and they realize, oh, it's the wrong guy. They see Affleck running off, and they start chasing after him. He just takes off through the snow because what else is he going to do in the middle of December in Michigan?
Runs through the snowy woods.
So you've got this bullshit like chase scene that's just like three guys running around in the woods. Yeah, and a couple of cars tooling around.
And Lieutenant Dan driving a car with
and then
Charlize Theron.
Suddenly the Goonies happens because Ben Affleck starts flagging out a car, and it's Lieutenant Dan.
Oh, great.
But he notices this, and he starts running last minute, and then Charlize Theron just grabs the wheel and just yanks the car off a cliff.
Which, considering what comes later, is weird. Because we're not supposed to know something about her yet. And the fact that she decides to, like, save his life is weird to me.
It's kind of strange, yeah.
So they all take a tumble down the mountain, and or down the hill, and
you
then...
make it sound so fun.
No.
It's just a nice little jaunt.
And then they start running, and then Affleck manages to get Lieutenant Dan's shotgun, but then Lieutenant Dan also has a hunting rifle that he starts chasing him with. And they take off over a frozen lake, because as you do,
Right. He's like running with Charlize Theron at this point.
Yeah, on a frozen lake, I have to point out,
Yes.
Affleck falls to the ice, Charlize Theron falls to the ice.
They fall to the ice because Lieutenant Dan is shooting at the ice.
Yes.
Right.
Because what an asshole.
So she's trying to get drowned by her brother.
Charlize is frozen.
This is all part of the plan.
Yes.
Dude, spoilers.
Okay, so she falls in the ice. Affleck goes in after her and drags her out, and Lieutenant Dan catches up with him. Then Lieutenant Dan murders a guy who's ice fishing.
But very tastefully, because the ice fisher runs back into his little hut, and Lieutenant Dan just shoots at the house.
So how does he even know that he, like, murdered the guy?
Oh, because he doesn't come out and they play some sad music.
Right.
Well, no, there's the one scene where there's a TV report playing in the background later, it's a very apropos report about missing fisherman, foul play suspected.
So we only find out later that, he must have been killed.
Yeah, so they drag him to to the game room, and then at that point I paused the movie for 5 minutes to see what pinball machines there were.
Yeah, because every time there's a pinball machine in any movie or TV show, we have to stop and look at them.
See if we've played it.
See if we've played them and see if we know what they are.
Also, one very important point about this motel, which I forgot to mention earlier, is the place looks like fucking medieval times.
It kind of does.
It's got, like, faux stone walls,
a
like...
bit of a castle motif going
on. There are, like, big, like, draperies everywhere,
and the pool
like...
is luxuriant as all fuck.
Yeah, it is.
But the pinball machines, one of them is called Big House, which, appropriate.
Right.
Kind of appropriate. The other is Street Fighter 2.
Yes.
Now, if you know anything at all about pinball, you would know that Street Fighter 2 is probably one of the worst pinball machines ever made. And if this movie were made in like 1992 or 93, I could kind of forgive it because Street Fighter 2 is still like one.
Yeah, that's a recent machine, and we're just like, get some recent machines to put.
Well,
in
it's
here.
a recent name. It's a popular name that everybody knows. But no, this is 2000 when pinball is way out of vogue.
Yes.
And not really popular anymore, and so they just had somebody grab whatever pieces of shit they could find. Fine, whatever. But Street Fighter 2,
did Gottlieb still exist in any fashion at this point?
I don't think so. Like, this is right around the time that Williams and Gottlieb went out of business.
I mean, this movie had plenty of product placement from like Pepsi, because there's not only do they spend quite a bit of time running past a Pepsi machine in this movie, but in the truck there's just a couple of Pepsi cans sitting around just because.
Now, I'm not saying that they should have had like a Star Wars like Phantom Menace pinball machine. That's probably like way too big for their
help me, young Jedi,
advertising budget or anything like that, and they don't want that kind of heat.
Of course,
also because that game sucks too. But this is the year 2000, and there are many more appropriate pinball machines than Street Fighter 2. It's another point.
You could have got like Monte Carlo or something, one of the casino themed machines.
Yeah, or like World Poker Tour, or
fucking like the
Sharky's Shootout, which isn't really appropriate, but kind of sounds appropriate.
Yeah, or the Pinbot one, the
Jackbot.
Yeah, Jackbot, that one.
You could have picked any of these, but the fact that you picked like a name that kind of sounded vaguely familiar that you probably would have to pay royalty rights on is a stupid decision. It kind of sounds like I'm nitpicking, and maybe I am, but So a prop master chose that on purpose.
Right.
Unless they just happened to find a hotel that didn't kick them out after they started filming. Yeah, someone put those there for a reason.
That is the other option.
Yeah, I was thinking it might actually be a hotel because
likely.
who can make that shit up? That place was ridiculous looking.
To be honest, I have actually never heard of Big House before. So everything I just said's probably not.
I think that they found a real place because that hotel was a fucking gem.
Yeah, so they drag him in the game room, and Gary Sinise starts throwing darts at Ben Affleck, as you do.
Mm-hmm. And again, it kind of doesn't make sense the way they do this because later on you see like a dart sticking out of Ben Affleck's back.
Yeah.
He throws
about that.
2 darts into him, and they hit him in the chest, and then later you see a dart sticking out of his back.
Which
apparently he can bend like space and time.
JFK bullshit.
They either cut out part of that scene, or they just really hated Ben Affleck.
Right.
Just stab him in wherever. Who gives a shit?
Or he fucking has telekinesis, and that shit just like arced right around.
Affleck kinesis.
Yeah.
Sinise kinesis.
Dart kinesis.
Synesis?
Sinise. That's what I have synesis.
That sounds like a disease.
Can we just stop for a second because I have this image in my head of Gary Sinise, and you know who he looks like to me in this movie? He looks like Steve Buscemi from Airhead.
Yes, like if not for the fact that I knew that was Gary Sinise, I'd be like, oh, Steve Buscemi, what's he doing in this movie?
Yeah, and not just Steve Buscemi from Airheads, but like Steve Buscemi is like the Bizarro universe version of this character because this character looks like he's supposed to look like that, and Steve Buscemi looks like
right.
He's an actor with a wig and a shitty like goatee on, but the Gary Sinise just looks like he popped up from like some drug den looking like this.
He looks so natural in this role, and that is not a compliment at all.
It's like Gary Sinise gets his first like royalty check from Paul 13. He's like, time to buy some meth.
Pretty much.
So they chain Affleck to the bed, throw him in a hotel room just to get him out of the way for a while they take care of business.
And then a bunch of dumb shit happens.
Yeah,
aside from the fact that like Affleck discovers the dark secret of the movie, or one of the dark secrets of the movie.
Well, it's a bunch of really stupid, like, dumb shit just for the sake of exposition.
Yeah,
none of it really means anything.
There's a little bit of, like, Affleck suddenly being resourceful that I guess they're trying to justify by saying, oh, he's a thief, he's resourceful.
He's a car thief, so he knows how to, like, hotwire things.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he manages to, like break the bed with a dart.
He unscrews the bed with, like, the back end of a dart. And then he jumps out of his window onto the bed of a truck and gets into another truck and steals something.
Instead of immediately hotwiring the truck and driving the fuck off because he is in fact a car thief and probably knows how to hotwire a car, he instead picks a car that says Gun Club on the back of it and starts rooting around for a gun. He finds a knife but not a gun.
And I had actually forgotten that this had happened because later on they tie him up and he just like pops a knife out of nowhere. I'm like, when did you get a knife?
I remember him having the knife.
A knife.
Yeah, I remember having a knife. I don't remember them. They didn't really set up a scene of him having the knife taped to his, like a Travis Bickle scene of him like having the knife on his wrist, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But he did have the knife. That's where he got it. But then this is all just a bunch of stupid shit just for the sake of exposition.
It's all, just filler to get him out of the room and to get him into the pool where we discover what?
Charlize Theron's boobs.
Well, we discovered those, like, in the first 10 minutes of the movie. But the big discovery is that Charlize Theron and Lieutenant Dan are actually boyfriend and girlfriend, and not brother and sister.
I don't actually know any of their names.
It's incest.
That's like, oh god, it's incest. No, they're just...
They're lovers.
The brother and sister thing is an act,
They're pulling a grift on poor old...
what's his
Batman.
face? Rudy.
Okay, I don't even know his name.
Ben Affleck.
Batman.
Rudy.
Bruce Wayne.
So then Sean asked, Ben Affleck. Then Ben Affleck sneaks back into his room and...
Yeah, they start going over... They start going over how they're going to rob the place, and their big idea for disguises is Santa costumes.
His name's Gabriel. I forget this. He still believes two things. One, that Rudy is actually Nick, which, given everything that we've learned and every interaction between them we've seen, how does he still not think? How does he still not know this?
He's really stupid. He's done a bunch of meth.
And also, he believes that there's such a thing as a powwow safe, because Ben Affleck just keeps hammering that nail. And
he repeats it a lot of times. And
so these are the two things that we know that Gabriel knows going forward into the heist.
Yeah, and this is where Ben Affleck does the thing where it's like, raise your hand if you ever done a robbery. It's Ben Affleck, you're a car thief, not like a casino robber.
Even if they haven't ever pulled a robbery before, these guys who are like supposed to be career criminals, would they not have enough pride to just lie about that?
Yeah.
This is what just occurred to me right this second, though. So, Rudy's pretending to be Nick. Nick is in prison for manslaughter. Why is Nick claiming to be some, like, seasoned thief, though? He totally Cameron Poe'd a guy. He just killed a guy in a bar fight.
Yeah.
The mind boggles.
No, 'cause
That's all.
this fucking movie is so terribly
So,
written.
Yeah, it
they
is.
decide to rob it in Santa suits, and Affleck convinces them that they need a sixth guy to pull off the robbery, and they buy it. They don't give him a gun though. He tells them that he needs a gun, and in response they punch him because he ran up $300 on the minibar tab.
Yep, like you do.
And
No, they do give him a gun though. They
Yeah.
finally do give him a gun.
they
Well-
give him a gun straight out of the fucking 80s because I've never seen a realistic water gun like that since 1986.
Yeah, they give him a squirt gun.
Well, this is before all the regulations where you had to like paint an orange tip onto your gun, or they just painted it back over.
Yeah, they give him like the most realistic looking water gun imaginable.
And on the way to the heist, there's a guy in the back of the semi with him, and he gives him a bottle of rum, and he fills up the gun with rum.
Yeah. It just starts shooting himself in the mouth with it.
Yeah, but it's important
you do.
because
I
he
mean,
has a squirt gun full of rum.
Yeah, I mean, it's he does this entire scene like he's planning something, like he has some great idea in mind. It was just like,
Maybe I'll get to do this before they kill me.
Right, and
Yeah.
then he squirts himself in the mouth with it.
Now we come to the big like set piece of the film, the heist, which I didn't actually write anything down about. I just wrote the words "the heist"
Okay.
and that's it.
okay, so they start out, they send a couple Santas in at first.
Oh yeah, and they play it up like they're all different Santas from different department
Yeah,
stores.
it's like a fucking mall Santa union, basically.
Like hey Costco, hey JCPenney.
And Dennis Farina, in fact, does send the guards home early this night.
Mhm.
There's a scene about that.
I just like how they're referring to each other in like
their
department store names,
store
like
names, yeah.
like it's fucking like Reservoir Dogs or something.
Mhm.
Like, hey, it's Mr. Pink. You know?
Mr. Belk,
Yes,
Mr. Walgreens.
it's Mr. Woolworths.
There's that Santa at Walgreens.
No, this isn't Mr. Pink, it's Lieutenant Dan. I know they look the same, but they're different guys.
God damn it, Jonathan.
Oh yeah. So Affleck his role in this heist is apparently to just get belligerent and distract everybody.
Yeah, he is the distraction, and he chooses this by picking a fight with an old guy at the blackjack table and literally tackling the guy and knocking the table over.
But because he's a criminal with a heart of gold, he holds the old guy down and tells him to hide.
Yeah, he doesn't want him to get shot up.
And at this point, a couple of the other Santas walked in. At this point, before this, Ben Affleck finally drew them a map. He just straight up made some shit up and gave it to them.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
Gary Sneeze is trying to follow the map and he just runs straight into a cinder block wall.
Yeah, and then
Twice.
and then he goes into like a fucking like mop closet.
Yeah, but eventually he finds the control room and starts shooting the place up.
He finally kicks in the door and just does the thing his way. Because he's tired of listening to follow Ben Affleck's bullshit
Yeah,
lies.
he shoots out all the security monitors and all that.
Which is great, because now you can't see shit.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, he's not a career criminal,
Yeah.
we find out. He's not
Yeah.
a genius.
There was nobody there to monitor
There
the security
are
anyway.
no
Yeah,
geniuses.
and at this point the robbers start realizing sometimes by getting shot the fuck up that Ben Affleck's been lying to them, because one of the things he told them was, oh, you need the key code to get into the cash room, but don't worry, the guy in there doesn't have a gun. And so they start roughing up the tellers, saying, what's the code? And it's like, there's no code, you just use the key. So they just kick the door open and get fucking shot for their troubles.
And not only is there
Yeah.
a guy in the room,
there
there's
are
two
like
guys, and they
Like
both have
two or
shotguns.
three.
Yeah, there's 3 or 4 guys
Yeah.
with
A bunch of
shotguns.
guys.
And they just murder the fucking first guy, and then Gary Sinise comes and just happens to just straight up hitman all of them, just
Yeah, he
perfect
just like
shots.
Rambos everybody.
And while this is all going on, Charlize Theron comes in with the fucking car.
No, she's just sitting in the car to begin with, right?
She
begin
was
with,
just sitting in the car.
Once everything goes cockeyed,
The cops show up is one
the
of the
cops
things.
show up first, and then she rams the cops with the car.
And she gets out of
Yeah.
the car going like, let's just get this fucking robbery done with. And she gives Ben Affleck some speech about how, like, you just gotta take it for yourself sometimes.
Yeah, and
It's a good
and
lesson.
like
Merry Christmas.
most of the Santas are dead at this point.
No, just the one Santa's dead yet, the one who gets shot at the change room. Then they decide to go up to Jack Bangs and start beating the fuck out of him and telling him, give us the powwow safe and give us the money and all that.
Up in his like
And-
luxury office.
Poor
Yeah.
Jack Bangs, man.
Yeah, and then so they and then Gary Sinise is just rubbing it the hell into this dying old man. He's just like, look at Nick Cassidy. He's robbing our place. He's robbing your place. And Jack Bangs is just like, that's not Nick Cassidy. That's the cowboy.
That's the cowboy.
The cowboy.
Like, just imagine that you're like in your dying breaths and somebody shoves a dude in your face and you're just like, you're a cowboy. I know you, you're a cowboy.
You're a cowboy, Harry.
Yeah, he's straight up telling him like, no, I know Nick Cassidy. You're no Nick Cassidy.
Yeah.
So then Lieutenant Dan gets really pissed and starts asking about the fucking powwow safe, and he's like, it wasn't real. And Ben Affleck, he's standing his ground at this point, even though he's been found out.
He's like, sorry, Ashley, you fucked the wrong guy. I'm Rudy.
But he's like,
And they still don't get it at this. Well, they still don't get it at this point.
well, I'm saying like he's doubling down though at this point.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, well, there's a total powwow safe. I know things
He's like,
because
it's behind-
Nick told
yeah,
me.
it's behind the liquor cabinet and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And so Gary Sinise finds the safe behind the liquor cabinet and sends Dennis Farina to go open the combination safe up.
Okay, and then my favorite thing in the movie happens. He opens the safe.
And what does Ben Affleck say?
Ben Affleck says, "Pow, wow."
And what's in the powwow safe, Joe?
2 Uzis.
And because Dennis Farina turns into fucking Scarface, I think also a mountain of goddamn
Oh,
cocaine.
probably.
Yeah.
But he, like, perks back up and he just starts shooting every fucking thing.
He kills one of the other Santas. The rest of them, like, jump out of the second story window.
Yeah.
And he jumps out after them.
Yeah, this guy's like,
Why
was
not?
bitten half to death, and he's using the other half to just chase people around with guns now.
Maybe in the safe, because he kind of like gets his face up in the safe when he's opening it. Maybe he had just like a line waiting
Just
for
a
him.
little bit.
Just a bump, you know?
Yeah, he just had like a bump in there.
Just to pick me up.
And that's where he got his second win.
That's his powwow.
Yeah, but I think that the powwow line I decided is like this movie's yippee-ki-yay motherfucker.
This is a movie that really, okay, I think Aaron Kruger's favorite movie is Die Hard, just based on this movie, because this movie tries so hard to be Die Hard. It's got the Christmas motif, it uses Christmas songs like fucking crazy, it's
Yeah, it
super
does.
violent, and it hates everybody, and Ben Affleck is the biggest shitheel on the planet, but we still kind of love him because he's Ben Affleck.
I hate him because he's Ben
I know that
Affleck.
doesn't have anything to do with
fucking
Die
hate
Hard,
Ben Affleck.
But yeah, like this movie's favorite movie is Die Hard.
If this movie were a person.
Yeah,
Thankfully it's not.
So then, after Ashley and Gabriel and Jack Baines go jumping out the window shooting at each other, the one robber who's left with Nick, they get into a fist fight and they grab for guns, and Nick grabs the water gun. And the other guy celebrates by lighting a cigarette.
Of
And
course, because that's what you do.
Ben Affleck, somehow with this tiny little $2 squirt gun, absolutely drenches this guy with rum and lights him the fuck on fire, and he goes flying out a window.
Well, not even that. He shoots it through the guy's lighter flame. Like, he has the
Yeah,
lighter,
like
and he
he's a-
shoots it through the flame, and it's like a flamethrower.
He's a crack shot, and also it's apparently 180 proof rum.
It's just like pure ethanol.
Because the guy just bursts into flames like he's a vampire.
Yeah, this is something IMDb pointed out, and it's one of those things where it's like, that's kind of weird that someone would notice that, but it's also weird that this is actually an error they make. So they give him a bottle of dark rum, but you can tell it's a bottle of Bacardi Silver. Yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where like, why would you make that error? You could have just had a bottle that just said XXX Hooch on it and called it a day.
Again, you know what it means? It means nobody on the set was drinking, and they had to go out and just have somebody grab something.
Right. Well, and obviously, you know, they never have alcohol in movies, so they just put some, like, brown water in it.
You know, every time I see people drinking, like, alcohol out of glasses in movies, I used to assume it's apple juice, but now to make sure that they get the right, like, feeling whenever they drink the alcohol, I always think it's like vinegar or something.
Yeah, because
they
they
have to
always
make
make a
that weird
face.
They have to make that, like, ugh face, like they just, like, swallowed some.
But also, if it were apple
Bullshit.
juice, like, when they drink, like, scotch and whiskey and stuff, I mean, it is, like, that shit's way too dark for it to be apple juice.
Oh, I know.
It reminds me of, like, cigarette butt water or something. That's what they would drink to get that nasty face.
So they pull off the heist against, like, every conceivable odds.
Such as it is.
So pull the heist.
Yeah, Gary Sinise and Ashley make it back to the car and kill Jack Bangs. And I think I actually read on IMDb, because that's where you go to read about movies, I guess.
Yeah.
They talk about originally the plan was to have Jack Bangs live through this scene. They said, wait, having a witness to the robbery doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But
Why is that the, like, one point where they pulled their
yeah,
heads out of their
'cause
asses?
there are plenty of other witnesses. They just locked them all in like the cooler or something.
Yeah, there's a shit zillion witnesses, and they can all ID Santa, I guess.
I'm glad they can ID Santa. Apparently they're all 4 years old.
Santa and Black Santa?
Black Santa and like, Mexican Santa.
Trejo.
Santa Trejo.
Yeah.
Um,
Saint Danny.
So yeah, so Ben Affleck makes a run for it and manages to run right into Gary Sinise. So they throw him in the back of the car, tie him up, throw him in the back of the car, and start driving off.
I think we need to just skip ahead here, because there is no more plot, really.
Yeah,
No.
But there's one more thing that happens in the movie, and
Yeah,
it's kind of like the big finish.
yeah. I mean, there's nothing to skip ahead right here because this is the next scene.
Oh,
They drive
yeah.
up to some random ass cliff and say, yeah, Ben Affleck, you pulled off the robbery, but you just started driving crazy and went away from there, you hit a patch of ice and went over the cliff, you know?
Right. It's time for you to die.
Can't have any witnesses. That's why the movie had to kill Dennis Farina.
Yeah, there's 5 Santas went in the casino. We got, 6 went in, but okay, go on with your line, Charlize Theron.
Yeah.
She's like,
Right.
gotta have 5 dead Santas.
Gotta have 5 dead Santas.
So here's a problem with this scene. So if you're gonna say, he totally drove the car off the cliff and fake an accident like that, they chose a cliff that's way the hell away from the road. And it's snowing. You would notice tire tracks. And the only tire tracks you see are from an 18-wheeler backing up to the cliff and putting ramps down.
Right, yeah, because the 18-wheeler has the car in the back of it.
Well, once again, it just stresses the fact that these guys are not genius criminals.
No, not really.
Nor are they genius script writers.
I don't want to. Yeah, but I don't want to lean on that concept as the crutch of the whole movie, because that's the laziest cheat ever.
Their plan is to basically throw Ben Affleck in the car, light the car on fire, throw a couple bucks in it, and drive it off the cliff.
Yeah.
And Ashley starts yelling at Ben Affleck about, Nick getting stabbed and all this, and then Ben Affleck is apparently Jerry Orbach from Law and Order now, because he's like, I never said he got stabbed.
I never said he got stabbed.
Which he didn't. He finally did tell her that Nick was dead.
But he never did say that he was stabbed.
It took
It's
him
true.
long enough.
Then Ashley shoots Gary Sinise.
Because he's a...
Yeah, then Ashley shoots Gary Sinise in, a weirdly cold scene.
She's just fucking a fucking ice queen about it.
Yeah.
And then Nick showed up. Nick, how did you get to this random-ass cliff? How did you know to come to this cliff, Nick?
Well...
He's apparently been tailing them the whole time.
Right, because apparently he just got out.
Yeah, he got out that morning.
He got out.
He said he paid out. He paid Alamo $100 to shiv him, and he had a fake blood capsule, and then he paid a guard to spread the rumor that he died. It's where are you getting all this money in prison, Nick?
Well, you see, he's one of the prison yard's favorite ladies, as they say.
That is a good way to make some money.
I don't know that that's what they say, but that's how I'm putting it.
Okay. Well then. So it turns out, who is Ashley actually?
Ashley is actually
Millie Bobek.
Millie Bobek.
Remember her? She existed in one line in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
She is Nick's ex-girlfriend.
So you can't say the movie didn't set it up, because it totally did.
And by ex-girlfriend, she's actually his current girlfriend.
Yeah.
And they're Bonnie and Clyde.
And you ever seen that movie Wild Things?
No.
Okay, so that was the movie where the two women made out.
Well, I saw that part, yeah.
But
yeah,
also
that's the
there
only
was
part I
about
know about that.
5 or 6 different double crosses in the movie.
Okay.
That's what this movie kind of turns into, because it's Nick is really Rudy, but Gabriel and Ashley are really going out. But Nick really isn't dead, and Ashley is really Millie.
Yeah.
And apparently Nick orchestrated this entire thing, saying, what we'll do is you'll pretend to be Ashley and meet some trucker, and then you and the trucker will pretend to be brothers, and we'll get my cellmate to pretend to be me.
And we're gonna write each other fake love letters for 6 months.
That is the longest con, I swear to God.
So this is Aaron Kruger trying to wrap all of his little story threads up into a neat little bow, and it really doesn't work.
Hypothetically,
bow.
what would you do if you were trying to rob a casino in Pennsylvania, Michigan?
I don't know, because I'm not that stupid.
I'm not that smart.
I think I would just rob it and then go across the fucking lake into Canada.
Sort of, yeah, you could do that.
I mean, this is the most convoluted plan ever, just for the sake of a movie plot.
With the extremes that they went to, don't you think a better option for them would be to just steal the money and then blow up the fucking casino? Because who's gonna know?
Or just set the casino on fire or something, yeah.
The casino is out in bumfuck nowhere, so...
Yeah, they
who
killed the
gives a
only 2
shit?
cops who were close enough to respond, pretty much.
Yeah.
Because the rest of the cops don't arrive until they're well on their way out of the casino. They pass them on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I mean, it takes Cheech Marin a long time to drive from Chicago.
Well, I mean, especially when you're that high. God.
So, I wonder what they would have done if the robbery would have gone well. What was Nick's plan then? Because Nick kind of counted on Ben Affleck playing the hero and getting all the other Santas killed.
Well, they would have probably killed Rudy, and then Nick would have just sort of slipped back into his place. I don't know.
And then Nick and Millie would have Bonnie and Clyded it up.
Maybe
Maybe they would drive to Mexico.
There are so many points in this movie where if they had just done the one thing they were supposed to, there would be no movie.
Yeah.
That's really how it should have been.
Yeah.
This movie should not have existed.
This movie is a series of situations where they always make the wrong decision because the wrong decision is the only way they can keep moving forward.
Yeah. But anyway, we can wrap up the plot and talk about it because we're almost at the end.
So Nick and Millie decide to go through with the plan, and my first thought was, why are you taking the guy who was in prison for stealing cars and putting him in behind a steering wheel?
Yeah, because they tie him up behind the wheel of a car, and then they're gonna run it off the
car off the road.
Yeah, on
Or
fire.
on fire off of a cliff.
Yeah,
And then he like totally Wolverine snicks to the knife out of his wrist.
I mean, how do you do that without slicing your arm
He
open?
apparently had no one told us about this, but apparently he had the knife taped to his wrist the entire time.
Because he's just prepared for all situations, I guess.
Obviously.
They tie his wrist with a Santa belt. He manages to cut it, and then hot wires the car, backs it up
into Nick.
and
Right,
just
and I guess-
cuts Nick's legs off.
Yeah, I was gonna
pretty
say,
much.
presumably he like chops his legs off, backing up into the back of the semi.
And then runs Charlize Theron right off the cliff. That car explodes. There's nothing left of her.
Right, and then he backs the semi off the
semi
cliff.
into reverse and backs that up, and that blows up. Nothing left of Nick.
No.
So what's left on the cliff then? There's Ben Affleck
And 2 big bags of money.
and so what does he start doing?
He starts playing Santa Claus.
He walks the 50 miles to Sid.
He walks home and puts a big stack of money in every mailbox he sees.
Just for the mailman to find him Boxing Day.
Okay, so that was immediately my first thought is,
like-
Karen and I know some people who are mailmen, and they tell us that one of the best days of the year for them is the day after Christmas because they get huge fucking tips from people
Yeah, people will just leave like gifts for them in the mailbox.
Yeah.
Shit, I've been an asshole for 3 years to my mailman.
So
Good
yeah,
job.
so the person who benefited from all of this is whoever's driving that mail route that day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, who the hell is going to check their mailbox on Christmas?
And you know what the headline is going to be the day after Christmas? Mailman wins lottery.
Pretty much,
He's
because
not going to tell anybody where
nobody's
he got that
going to.
money.
Yeah, that is
Or is it
blood
gonna be like,
money.
you know, oh yeah, my uncle died. Yeah, that's a ticket.
Yes.
My uncle died and...
He left me cash. You know, nobody's going to get to use that money because the bills are probably all like traceable.
They're all marked, probably.
I mean, so that's the really shitty part. I mean, he's just leaving the money for the authorities to find.
So yeah, he
Half of Michigan gets arrested.
Yeah, basically.
So he makes it home for Christmas, and he's at Christmas lunch or Christmas dinner wearing the raggedy ass Santa suit covered in blood and smoke.
Yeah.
And like it ends over Ben Affleck having a moment with himself where he gets to like narrate that he's
The
going
exact
home.
same speech that from the beginning.
Yeah, the exact same speech where he's going home and he's having Christmas dinner, having that turkey.
Yeah.
And then
you know,
one
come
thing
hell or high water.
One thing I noticed in the credits is that the credits are listed in order of appearance. The last like a dozen names in the credits are all the names of the family members who were in the scene for like half a second, but they're all given names. It's like Uncle Bill, Aunt Susan, Cousin Joey.
And they all get half a penny whenever this movie plays on Cinemax.
At least it's not on Skinamax.
That could be. Hey.
Oh, that's an entirely different movie.
Not really.
There are a couple of boobs
One of
for
the
a short amount of
things
time.
that always bugged me about Skinamax was that they were just barely porn. Like they were basically like rip-offs of Coen Brothers movies that had like a scene of.
The only
nudity
thing that
in
I
them.
ever saw like during Skinamax programming was Orgasmo, which is not even
This
like
is it.
anything you would
And
want to
there's-
watch.
And there's no female nudity in that because it's all dude asses.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's like all those movies is just like they seem to run off of like the same generic plot of Shannon Tweed being a sex therapist or being a sex cop or
How does one become a
prison
sex
guard.
cop?
I don't. I'm not Shannon Tweed.
Is
am I?
that what Olivia Benson is? Is she a sex cop?
That's Ice-T maybe.
And Ice-T.
Ice-T's a sex cop.
On
I mean,
SVU.
have you seen his wife's ass? I think it's huge.
So it feels like we've sped through this plot incredibly fast, and
So did the movie.
so did the movie.
Yeah.
The movie was so eager to end itself, and I think that's kind of the best thing I could say about it. It moves really quick.
I was eager for it to end itself too.
Yeah, I wouldn't I mean, I'm not going to say it's a good movie, but
It is not a good movie.
But before I call it a bad movie, I would call it a dumb movie.
It's a fun bad movie.
It's a strange movie. That's what I call it.
It has all the hallmarks of one person trying really hard and another person not trying at all.
One thing I noticed from the beginning, and I didn't actually realize why this was weird until the last scene of the movie, but I noticed that the whole thing, and I am not a person that knows anything about filmmaking, and I have seen like about 2 movies in my life.
Welcome to the podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the other one is Christmas.
Yeah,
with the
I was gonna
Crank.
say the 2 movies are Reindeer Games and Christmas with the Crank, so I just need to go shoot myself now.
How's your Oscar ballot?
It is sad. One thing I noticed was that the scenes are all framed like really weird. Like the shots are, it just has really weirdly framed shots. They're all like kind of like cockeyed and like sideways.
Yeah, it's all a little cockeyed and everything looks just a little bit dirty and it's just
and like there's weird like sound effects going on and like ambient noise and stuff behind. Mm-hmm. And then I realized at the very end that what it is like every fucking shot in that movie looks like a comic book panel. So I don't know where they were going with that, but it looks like a graphic novel.
It's like it's kind of trying to be a Robert Rodriguez movie,
right?
Like almost like a Desperado or a Sin City or something. But it is nothing. It is so far apart from Sin City. Oh. But like Danny Trejo's in it,
yeah,
and
that's all you need, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of cartoonish, and it has that weird, like, late 90s, shiny, glossy look, but everything's kind of dingy because it's in, like, small-town, shitty Michigan. And why would you set a movie there? Like, unless you're Fargo, why would you set any movie
right,
there?
Unless you're the fucking Coen brothers and you have the chops to, like, pull it off. Why?
I mean, the only thing I could think of is if John Frankenheimer was up there already, he's like, yeah, we're filming a movie here. Like, well, why don't we go film somewhere else? Because I'm here already. Because I'm retired.
This is where I went to die.
It's like how the first German chancellor after World War II, Konrad Adenauer, the reason the West German capital was in Bonn is because Konrad Adenauer had a farm outside of Bonn, and he didn't want it to go more than about 10 minutes to go to work.
I mean,
pretty much.
If you can pull it off, then why not?
So this movie it came out at a point where Ben Affleck was sort of on the decline. Like, he hadn't quite gotten there with Daredevil yet, but he was getting there.
I wrote down that this was in Ben Affleck's shitty period.
Yeah, like he had just won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting, and he decided to like piss it away with an action movie where he dresses up as a shitty Santa Claus.
One thing Charlize Theron said about this, she said this is the movie she regrets most, and she tells herself the only reason she took it was an opportunity to work with Frankenheimer.
Right. And it turns out it's a good thing she did that, because he did a TV movie after this, and then he died.
Better this than a TV movie? I don't know.
So, how does this movie relate to Christmas?
Well,
really,
there's a lot of Christmas
it has
music.
All the trappings of Christmas, but I mean, it's not about Christmas at all. It takes place around the holidays. It has lots of your typical Christmas music, Let It Snow, and I actually can't remember any of the Christmas songs in this movie now.
Silver Bells is the
yeah,
song
Silver Bells. Yeah, he whistles Silver
Bells.
Because that's how he reintroduces himself. He's like whistling it, walking around the semi.
Right.
That's how you
know
he's there.
We're totally going to remember that from when he whistled it,
Yeah, once at the beginning of the movie.
I actually remembered that.
I know.
So...
You remembered it because you watched the movie, and it happened an hour and a half ago. In the character's timeline, it happened 6 fucking days ago.
Oh, I see that. Okay.
But the movie does the exact same thing that Die Hard did, where it sets itself at Christmas, and then it puts all of its action and violence against the backdrop of, like, Gene Autry music and, like, kids' Christmas songs.
Just for, like, the most discord possible?
Yeah, and it doesn't go quite as far as, like, playing Beethoven, but Reindeer Games, it's like it's trying to have fun with itself and have fun with the concept by throwing in Christmas music and thinking, like, oh, this is fun, this is atmospheric. Yeah. But it just kind of becomes... like manipulative, like you feel bad.
Yeah,
it's just kind of forced.
Feel bad for it. Yeah.
This movie has just a bunch of random Christmas music at inappropriate times. Like when they are just like hardcore destroying the room, fucking like that's when Jingle Bells plays, I think.
Yeah.
And then when they first meet in the coffee shop, what song do you hear? Because it's so on the fucking nose. At last.
Yeah. Fucking Etta James.
Right. I mean, that's not Christmas, but that's the level of
it's just either it's random Christmas music or it's just way
like
on the
standards.
nose.
That's the level of subtlety that this movie's playing with. But and again, it's all because Die Hard did it. Can't stress that enough.
So that's this movie's Simpsons did it.
Yeah. So on a scale, if we were to rank this movie, like on our official ranking of Christmas movies for this podcast, Crank is at the fucking bottom. It has to be. But on a scale of like Crank to Die Hard.
Crank to Crank 2 High Voltage.
Oh, yeah, Christmas with the Cranks, not Crank.
I was gonna say, we have to,
On the scale of Christmas with the Cranks being at the bottom and Die Hard being at the top, I guess Die Hard's at the top now. Where does Reindeer Games come from?
Can I make a terrible confession on this podcast right now? I have never seen Die Hard.
Well, okay.
I'm not gonna say I'm disappointed. I'm just gonna say stay tuned.
I'm disappointed myself.
I just want to throw something out there. What would be like Die Hard is a great movie, but if we want to talk about a great Christmas movie, it's kind of like Reindeer Games. It just uses Christmas as an excuse to do shit.
Yeah, there are two sort of types, there are two modes of, quote unquote Christmas movies. There's the movies that are about the holidays and about people, dealing with family issues around Christmas time. Your Christmas with the Cranks, fucking Bad Santa, Elf.
Yeah.
Movies that are specifically like pointed at and about Christmas. And then you have the movies where they just sort of use the trappings of the season to tell their story. Home Alone doesn't really need to be set at Christmas. It helps, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because I think Home Alone 3 just takes place when the kid's like sick from school one day.
Oh yeah, like at a certain point, Home Alone just gives up on Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, going out there to all the people who are old, decrepit pieces of shit like me and remember watching The Critic and actually liked The Critic. Remember how The Critic had a joke about Home Alone 5? Yeah, Home Alone 5 exists now. You're welcome.
Home Alone 5 exists and it has Malcolm McDowell in it.
Really?
Because that dude just likes money.
Speaking of Beethoven and movies.
Full circle. But really, on the scale of Christmas with the Cranks to Die Hard, where does Reindeer Games fall?
I'd say maybe 4/5 of the way down.
It's close to the bottom. It's not
It's
quite
not
there
all the way
is,
there.
This is almost a fun movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I actually was kind of engaged with the plot. I wanted to see what was going to happen in the movie, but the way that they were doing it all was just kind of hurt to watch.
Oh yeah, I was into it, if only just to see how are they going to spin this bullshit around this time.
Yeah.
What way are they going to fuck this part
Yeah.
up?
Joe, what's the movie you have to watch every Christmas? More than any other.
For me, personally, I'm going to say it's Christmas Vacation.
Same with us, actually. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's what I'm going to say. There's...
Speak for yourself. Mine's A Christmas Story.
Oh, fuck you. Fuck off.
Anyway.
See, no, there's a difference between A Christmas Story and Christmas Vacation. Christmas Story is the one I'm gonna watch. Christmas Vacation is the one I have to watch.
Okay. Christmas Story you can't help but watch because it's on TV for
Christmas Story
48
is going
hours.
to happen.
You ask that question to anybody, and you'll get an answer. If someone will say, you ask someone, what's the one movie you have to watch every Christmas? And by have to, I mean oh, it's not Christmas unless, not well, someone's forcing me to. It's more like, it's not Christmas until I watch blank.
I'm not enjoying Christmas to its full until I'm watching X.
Can you see someone saying it with Christmas with the Cranks?
No.
God, no.
You kind of can. A really weird, broken person who doesn't know what jokes are.
Ted Turner?
Yes. I mean, you
Tim Allen?
You can you can go on IMDb fucking B and see people saying, oh, it's not Christmas, I watch Christmas with the Cranks. You're like, you are so wrong. You probably got paid to post this, but okay. I really doubt you'd see someone being like, oh, it's not Christmas until I watch Reindeer Games.
And I want to know,
there's some douchebag in college right now who actually thinks that.
There's some super smug ass guy who just thinks he's the coolest shit because he loves Reindeer Games.
He's writing Boondock Saints. Boondock Saints.
Right now. Yeah, exactly.
He's probably gonna.
Hi, Troy Duffy.
He's probably gonna write his senior thesis on the complexities that tie together Reindeer Games and Die Hard.
Yeah, we're talking about Troy Duffy.
Oh,
And on the other hand, there's some really, really horrified grandmother and grandchild somewhere who rented Reindeer Games to watch for Christmas.
You're so right.
And did not know what they were getting into. They thought it was going to be a happy, fun time.
If it's any indication of the families you see who walk out of movie theaters, it's going to be the second time that Charlize Theron gets naked before they check out.
Yeah.
Because the first time's a little bit of surprise, but the second time is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
The second time, that's when you storm out the second time.
Well, it's striptease time then in the fucking pool.
Yeah. So Reindeer Games, we do not recommend watching at Christmas time.
No, I'd say I guess it's about at 20% up the scale for me.
It's at 20%.
Yeah, it's not as bad as Cranks, but you can actually, if it happened to be on TV and you were too lazy to get up and change the channel or turn the TV off, you could do worse.
Yeah,
like Christmas with the Cranks.
Yeah,
it's. I think it scores any points that it earns purely on the actual music that they use in the movie. Because who doesn't like listening to some Christmas music?
And going with John's example of it just being on TV and watching it just because it's there, it's basically, I would have to say it's my movie version of NCIS.
Yeah.
That's the worst show, but I watch it anyway.
It's bad, but it's not so bad that you're going to actually get the effort up to change the damn channel.
Exactly.
Oh, but we will find those films.
Don't
worry.
worry.
It's called Christmas with the Cranks.
Well,
I mean, we started with a bang, but
We started with a fart.
We started with a fart, and now we're dealing with the
wet fart. There are more
But see,
coming.
Now that we've actually established where these two films fall, we can get into like the infinitesimal spaces in between, because that's where all the Hallmark films live, and that's where all the direct-to-TV Christmas cartoons live, and that's where Santa Claus Conquers the Martians lives.
Oh, my vote for the worst Christmas. I know Christmas shoes exist, but my vote still for the worst Christmas movie is The Christmas That Almost Wasn't. Because I will just explain to you what The Christmas That Almost Wasn't about. We might actually get to it.
I was gonna say maybe we should not explain it
But
because we may watch it one day.
Real quick, just tell me.
Christmas is getting canceled because Santa didn't pay rent, and if Santa doesn't give you presents, what's the hell's the point of Christmas?
Oh my god!
In this movie, the Santa's landlord is named Mr. Prune, and the hero is named Mr. Whipple. This entire movie is just a shit joke.
Apparently so. What the hell?
For your kids out there, Mr. Whipple is the Charmin guy.
Yes. I know
Yes. For anyone under
Wait,
the
is
age
the
of
movie
like,
an ad for toilet paper?
I think so.
maybe
yeah.
it is.
But you know what? I think when we get to it, we will discuss toilet paper in depth.
Oh yeah.
Episode. I think this is going to be the end of our episode tonight. So if you have any questions or comments, we do have an email account now. It's xmascreeps@gmail.com.
We have a lot of stuff now. We've signed up
have-
for social media.
Yeah, we're on Facebook. Find us at Christmas Creeps. You'll know us right away. We're the skull and crossbones, but the crossbones are candy canes. At us on Twitter at Xmas_creeps. And
All the other versions are taken by people making shitty gimmick accounts. Stop doing that, Twitter.
yeah, or help us get the real Xmas Creeps. Also, we are now on iTunes. It did not take us that long to get on iTunes.
No, it
but
was
we are
about
there.
a day and a half.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember in the past, iTunes used to say you had to have 3 episodes or something to get listed. Now
Yeah,
it's just,
you had to prove that you were like kind of in it for the long haul, sort of. You couldn't just do one episode and be done with it. But yeah, we are on iTunes, so go find us there and leave us a comment or a review. That might get us a little bit of visibility. We don't have the kind of audience that gets us on the front page of iTunes, but
We just want to know what you think.
yeah,
the true meaning of Christmas is rating and reviewing us on iTunes.
the true meaning of Christmas is iTunes.
That's
Yeah.
If you want to send us some iTunes cards, we would not be against that. I certainly wouldn't.
No, of course not.
If you want to send us a recommendation for a new episode, we will be most certainly taking them.
You can
Yes.
send us any mail to Santa Claus. He will forward it on to us. He is at the North Pole.
At the North Pole. He's a personal friend of John's. I haven't met him yet, but he's talked a lot about him. And I think that's going to do it for this week. So,
Yep.
Ho, ho, ho. And now I have the end of the podcast.
Happy Christmas! Happy Christmas!